Okay, hi. Do I look unorganized and disheveled? I'm sorry. I just came from the gym, so that's why I look like this. And I threw on a sweater. So, um, obviously, some big news came out, and since it's Thanksgiving weekend, you guys aren't going to get a podcast this week. I know, technically 3 weeks in a row where we haven't had a podcast, so we'll be back next week though. But obviously, I do Steelers recaps after every single Steelers game, so this is probably the biggest news of the season. So of course I'm going to talk about it. I know I'm a day late, but I'm sorry. I have a life, and as much fun as I do have making these, which I genuinely do, they don't pay my bills, so I can't make these first priority all the time. So yeah, Matt Canada was fired. And before I say anything else, I do want to say I feel bad for the man. Things should never have gotten personal from the fan base to him. I will say he was always a stand-up guy. Every press conference he showed out with, he showed respect, and he didn't badmouth anybody. You know, he showed a real amount of professionalism, and it sucks to be unemployed, and it sucks to hear people chant fire, essentially you, for however many weeks, not just this season, but also last season. That sucks, and now he's unemployed, and that's also horrible. You never actually want to vouch for someone's unemployment, no matter how many times on the podcast Zach and I would joke about it. Obviously, it was never anything personal. And yeah, so even though we didn't get the results we wanted, I still do give a shout out to Matt Canada. And honestly, I feel bad for him, especially the fact that he stayed with the team for this long. That might sound weird, but what I mean is I think that the Rooneys were actually doing a disservice to the man and his family by keeping him around, because he's going to leave Pittsburgh with a horrible taste in his mouth, and it's very fair to do that. I'm not saying he did a great job. I'm just saying he was not treated the best. The players seem to have respected him, maybe up until the end, which we'll talk about. But the fan base, after about the first 6 weeks of his first season with Big Ben, seemed to kind of lose it. So that's that. Also, I'm going to talk about a video that I made for the post-game reaction to the Bengals game. Obviously, those are the heat of the moments. That's kind of why I do those seconds after, so you guys can see like how we're feeling right afterwards. I swore a lot. Probably my most sworn video, if I had to guess. But yeah, I mean, I honestly stand by almost everything that I said. The only thing is, I said, what does Mike Tomlin do? And Condog at that point was not thinking correctly. Mike Tomlin does a lot. One of which coming out for this press conference yesterday, as in Tuesday, and talking about this and essentially addressing the elephant in the room. I genuinely thought he was going to not talk about it. Like, if the first question came in about Matt, he'd be like, we're not gonna talk about that, it's in the past, and this is it. But he took the questions. Some of them were kind of fucked up questions, I'm not gonna lie. Like, one person asked, how did Matt take the news? The fuck is wrong with you? None of your business. So yeah, and that in the video that I made in the post-game reaction to the Browns game, I will say, when I said, what does Mike Tomlin do? I wasn't thinking straight. I was very wrong there. But my reaction to the Canada thing. Okay, so that means what this means now is Mike Sullivan is going to be our play caller, and I am so sorry to our running backs coach. I don't have his name memorized, but he's going to be our coordinator. So if you're new to football, essentially he's the play designer. And how did I just said his name? I literally just forgot it. That is crazy. I'm so sorry. It's also late, and I have to catch a flight tomorrow morning at I have to get up at 3:30 a.m. So Mike Sullivan. So essentially, our running backs coach has been promoted to the play designer, and he's going to create our call sheets. And then Mike Sullivan, our quarterbacks coach, is going to be the actual play caller. Which I will say, I looked up Mike Sullivan, his history. He's been a coordinator twice, once in 2012 for the Buccaneers, and once in 2016 for the Giants. And I was looking at both of those, and I was like, ooh, especially when I saw the Buccaneers went 7-9 and the Giants went 11-5. But Mike Sullivan was able to get an offense led by Josh Freeman to throw for 4,000 yards. I'm not saying Kenny's going to sniff 4,000 yards. We're more than halfway through the season. I don't think he's even at 2,000. But what I'm saying is he will throw the ball. And then Eli's season, he also threw for 4,000. I think it was 26 touchdowns and 16 interceptions for Eli. And then Josh Freeman, he threw for 27 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. I know one of them's a Hall of Famer, but you got very similar results from a Hall of Famer and also an irrelevant quarterback now. I mean, he was a starter back in 2012, but he didn't really make it past that. So I'm excited for that. And those were also both teams that had really, really good wide receiver options. Like they had Vincent Jackson on that Bucs team. They had Odell Beckham on that Giants team. And I think we, with Deontay, George, and Pat, were loaded on the offensive side. So I'm really happy with that. And I will say this. I have not been excited for a Steelers game in a long time. Usually I kind of like, I get excited as a fan for a game because like, okay, I get to do something with my Sunday and I guess watch football. But I'm saying like for the product, I have not been excited for a Steelers product in so long. Week 1 was probably the last time I was excited, and that was ruined within about 30 seconds because the Niners blew us out. But this, I'm genuinely excited because we have seen the same system for 2.5 years. The exact same system, guys. When Ben was our quarterback, it was the same system. Last year, it was the same system. And we're now, it can't get worse. It genuinely can't. And if it does, I'm going to be at a loss for words. And like, of course, I want Kenny to come out on Sunday and like throw for 400 yards. His over-under right now is set at 198, which like he just threw for 106, basically 99, but the last play gave him a little bit more. He just threw for 99 yards essentially. And now the line is coming out to be like, oh yeah, he's gonna more than triple that. I honestly think he could throw for 250. Cincinnati has a not very good pass defense right now. And if our defense, like, guys, if our defense can keep the Bengals off the field and our offense can at least score points every single time, like let's say the Bengals, they go 6 drives without scoring points and they just punt on those 6 drives, and we at least get a field goal off of all of those in the first half. That's 18 points. Like, that's such an actual like help. So I'm genuinely excited about that. Now, obviously, all of the focus now is going to be on Kenny. And here's the thing. However, this second half of the season is going to go, and I'm sure I'm going to have reactions post-game where I might say something stupid that I don't mean 2 days later. But we have to give Kenny the rest of this season, of course, but we also have to give him next year. Everyone was so patient with Baker Mayfield, and everyone was like, oh, well, Baker's been so many systems. I'm not saying Baker's a bad quarterback. I'm just saying like that was not excuses, but that was the reason everyone gave. Oh, he's been in so many systems. Like, so same with Sam Darnold. And just other quarterbacks in the past. And so if you're willing to do it for other quarterbacks, you have to do it for Kenny. And I think earlier in the season, I said my comp for Kenny is he is currently pre-Mike McDaniel's Tua, where you didn't get a good offensive mind, and Tua was looking kind of like a bust at the 5th overall pick. And then he got a great offensive mind, and now he's an MVP candidate. And at a point, both this season and last season, he was a front runner. So you just got to get the right scheme. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to make Kenny an MVP front runner. What I would like is for Kenny to just move into like a top 20 in the NFL quarterback. I'm talking better than like Derek Carr, talking better than Will Levis, even though he's been struggling. Like better than Dorian Thompson Robinson. Like it's a very low bar, but that's where I want him to get to. So I do think we have to be patient with Kenny. I think 3 years is the perfect. Me and Parker, if you guys haven't seen Parker on the podcast, he's phenomenal. He's a coach, and he wants to be working in the NFL soon. He does mock drafts, and he's literally nailed like every single player that's like been my guy. Not a joke. But we were talking about like 3 years is the perfect amount of time, not just for quarterbacks, but rookies in general. You want to give them about 3 years, and a quarterback especially. Now, here's the thing. Do I want Mike Sullivan to be our OC or our play caller for the foreseeable future? And okay, I got to get his name. I want to say his name is Eddie Faulkner. I could be wrong. Is it Eddie Faulkner? Let's go. It's Eddie Faulkner. Okay. So am I saying I want Eddie Faulkner or Mike Sullivan to be our OC for the foreseeable future? No. Honestly, this offseason, I want Pittsburgh to get out of the Pittsburgh locker room for a coordinator. And it's actually a report came out today that Omar Khan, the GM, is going to have more of a say in the coordination hiring than anyone else. Obviously, he's going to get some opinions from Mike Tomlin, but it sounds like they're kind of changing it up a little bit. And I think that's great. The number one guy that I want is, of course, he's from a Shanahan system, but it's, I just want to make sure his first name is Clint before I say anything else. Yeah, it's Clint Kubiak. Obviously, his dad is Gary Kubiak, ex-NFL head coach, but he's currently with the Niners as, I believe, their quarterback coach, or he's the assistant quarterback coach, or the assistant offensive coordinator, but I think it's quarterback coach. And I mean, I'm not saying that he is solely responsible for what's happened with Brock Purdy, but if you look at everyone that's left that Shanahan system, they have some extremely advanced offensive knowledge. And I want that. And so he's my number one. This is the biggest name going around Twitter right now. It's Byron Leftwich. I know he had a production with the 2021 Buccaneers team, but Brady was their quarterback. I know it was an old Brady, but still. We've seen how Belichick has been without Brady. I don't want to have to risk that. If we're going to get a new coordinator, we need to take the safest pick possible, and that is someone from like a Shanahan tree or McVay tree. I'm tired, guys. Like offensive powerhouse trees that have had success outside of them. Like, obviously, you don't want to poach anyone from, like, one name I saw was Bill O'Brien. No, I don't want Bill O'Brien. But Clint Kubiak is my number one. Okay, I love the idea of Ben being the OC, but it's a fun idea. I don't know if he'd be good or not, so I'm not going to even pitch his name. Someone that I saw, though, that was interesting is Dan Orlovsky. I think having an ex-quarterback and the way he talks, like, I watch all of his deep dives on Twitter that he posts when he's either watching a game live or he's doing like a post reaction to certain plays. He's really smart. And I thought not only because he's an ex-quarterback, obviously not the best ex-quarterback, but the way he talks about it, he wants to put not only like a quarterback in a position to succeed, but just whatever system works best for that team. So like if it's a run heavy team, he's not going to try and force it to the quarterback because he's an ex-quarterback. Just the way he schemes up plays whenever he's doing them on Twitter is really interesting. If you guys haven't watched it, make sure you check it out. But I think he would be interesting. Especially just like a younger guy. That's one thing I really hope is we go younger. That's kind of why I like Clint. But yeah. And then last thing I'm going to talk about is why this happened. I think, again, it's starting to come out a little bit more, but like post game, one of the most unexpected things ever happened. And that was Najee in a post game interview seemed like he was losing faith. And this is Najee, like the dude who has stuck through everyone. Like anytime he's gotten a bad question about Canada or Tomlin or the team, he's always been like, we're gonna figure it out. And to see him question it, I saw some stupid ass Steelers fans being like, he's just jealous, he's not getting carries. No, do you see him celebrate when Jaylen Warren does awesome shit? He does not care. He just wants to have success. And fun fact, when our team is successful, Najee's usually successful. He is top 5 in the NFL right now in 15+ yard runs. Jaylen Warren's just a better back right now, but Najee's still doing really, really good. He's not jealous or anything. But when you see him start to lose faith, I think that might have been because it sounds like Mike Tomlin did the firing, but it sounds like it might have come up from like it was decided by Rooney. And so I bet you Rooney saw that interview and saw everything that was happening post game, was like, okay. And it's funny because the way the Steelers are reacting, the Steelers fans are reacting, you'd think we're a 1-8, 2-7 team, but we're 6-4, you know, and we're the 7 seed. Now we should be the 5 seed because we should have beat Cleveland, which is really funny because if Baltimore would have lost this week, since the Chiefs lost, Pittsburgh, if they would have won, would have been the 1 seed. But honestly, I think us losing that game might have been one of the best things for the franchise because it showed that we do need to make change. So shout out to the Browns, first of all, for possibly saving not only our season, but the future. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what Kenny does. It sounds like we are going to start implementing a lot more play action off of off of runs that have worked. A lot of the play actions we've been doing for the last couple of weeks are play actions in sets and formations that we were not running the ball in. So no wonder it wasn't working. And this is another thing that I saw that I really, really agree with. With Allen Robinson, I mean, he's been fine. We're also not throwing the ball enough to really be able to see how he's doing. But with him being a little bit older and more of a mentor on the team, Pittsburgh should be putting Pat Freiermuth in the slot and always having Darnell Washington on the field. First of all, you draft him with a third rounder. You said he's basically an honorary lineman, and we saw in week 1 he can take on Nick Bosa head on. So like he has the skill set, but he can still release for routes. And so if you have Pat running in the slot and then you have George and Deontay on the outside, then you have essentially an extra offensive lineman who can then run a route if you need him to, essentially just an option route, like a check and release if needed. Like, that's a really good offensive scheme. And then you have Jalen in the backfield or Najee. Like, I trust both of them. I trust Jalen a lot more, actually, just because we've seen the explosivity that he has. I think, like I said, it can't get worse. And even if, it's such a low bar to just want for the rest of the season to average 20 offensive points a game. Right now, we're averaging, I think, 13 offensive points per game, which is insane. But to get to 20, almost 3 touchdowns a game would be great. I'm hoping that this means Kenny can at least have like 2 passing touchdowns every game, at least for the rest of the season. I think it's possible too. But yeah, I'm just really looking forward to it. I do think there's going to be a change, like a visible change. It may not be as drastic in week 1 since we're doing it on a shorter week. Obviously not a short week isn't like we played on Thursday or we played on Monday this week and we're going to play on Sunday, but a shorter week as in we made the change on a Tuesday as opposed to a Monday, so it's going to probably take about 2 weeks to implement everything. This is why I was hoping we would do something like this during the bye week, but we didn't. So because we play the Bengals this week, but next week, is it the Colts next week? Not Steelers Depot. Because if it's the Colts next week, that's actually like a really good test. Oh, it's the Cardinals. Oof. Okay. I mean, it's a great test because that's a horrible defense. I'm just worried about with Kyler coming back. He's looked a lot more. The Cardinals have looked a lot more competent, which actually they've been a very feisty team. So that's also a trap game for us. But I think the Cardinals game is going to be the perfect test. It's a bad defense against what should be a much improved offense from 2 weeks. So yeah, I'm curious. It's also gonna be really interesting seeing. Sorry, I know this is kind of going long. It's gonna be really interesting seeing a running back coach doing the play designing, considering our running game has been one of the best parts of this offense. And honestly, in my opinion, I think Jalen Warren is running like a top 10 running back in the league right now. I would argue top 5. I'm sorry, he had a 74-yard touchdown run against possibly the best defense in the NFL. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting seeing like a running back coach design the plays, and then having a quarterback's coach play call. So I'm really interested in that. I also think that this is going to be very similar to the Raiders situation where the players just might boost morale. Not the fact that he's out of the building, but that they're finally being used to their strengths. So like if I'm a betting man, I'm probably betting the over on Deontay receptions this week. I am betting the over on Pickens yards. I'm betting, I know you can't really bet carries, but I'm betting the over on Jalen Warren's carries. And I would probably bet, I'm willing to bet that Kenny's going to throw for 2 touchdowns. Mike Sullivan works with Kenny one-on-one. He's the quarterback's coach. Mike Sullivan wants people to know that the guy he's been coaching is good. He wants to showcase his guy. He wants people to know that he's doing a good job, because if Kenny's a failure, like that also lands on the coaching staff, not just the offensive coordinator and the head coach, but it lands on the quarterback's coach, So Mike Sullivan wants to show people like, yeah, this is my guy. We're good, So I think there's going to be a lot of good play designs for Kenny too. I expect Kenny to also use his legs a little bit more with the same with Mike Sullivan when he was back with Tampa Bay. Josh Freeman was a little bit more of a mobile quarterback. Obviously, Eli didn't do that much running. I think Eli had 12 carries for -6 yards that season. Also, probably just like Niels. But Josh Freeman, I think, had 176 rushing yards when he had Mike Sullivan as his offensive coordinator. So Kenny is athletic. They just don't really scheme it that way. Also, I'm really hoping that Mike gets it through Kenny's head that he needs to step up in the pocket and not bail, because Kenny loves to bail. One of the biggest plays going around Steelers Twitter this week is we were in the red zone and the pocket started. It didn't even collapse. It just pushed back a little bit, and Kenny bailed right away, and then he ended up getting sacked when he had Deontay across the middle for a touchdown. So Kenny, which again could be coaching. You never know. It could be a fear. I haven't watched Kenny's press conference yet today. I'll probably do that when I finish packing right now. But I want to hear what he has to talk about. I don't know if they asked him about the change. I imagine they did. But my battery's about to die. So I'm going to end this video here. I'm curious your guys' thoughts on the Matt Canada firing and the change. I'm curious what you guys think on what's kind of next or what to expect for the Steelers. And also make sure to check out the skit that I posted a couple days ago. It was kind of like recapping, and it was, scriptwriters writing the Browns Steelers game. I had a lot of fun making it, and if you guys want in the future, and I had a lot of fun making it, so I might make those in the future. If you guys want more, or if you guys want a specific game, let me know. I'll make more. But I gotta get this edited and exported. You guys can get this the day after I make it. So happy Thanksgiving to you guys. Hope you guys share a good time with your loved ones. I hope you guys have a great just if you guys have a 3-day weekend or however long, just enjoy the time, eat lots of good food, and be around the ones that you guys love. And I appreciate you guys, whether you're watching this video or you're just subscribed or you only saw one of my reels, you're not even seeing this. I don't care. I appreciate it. We're almost at 10K on TikTok. Like, I've been having an absolute blast this season. So thank you guys so much. And we don't know how to end these. So